Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to the greatest, funniest, the merriest, the happiest 2021 NFL mock draft on the internet. Christmas came early for the Jaguars. Their secret Santa was the Jets, who gifted them with the number 1 overall pick and the rightful claim to Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence.
You did it! Congratulations!
So we'll get to all that. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your holiday season to check out my Christmas edition mock draft. The order is once again based on my predictions for the final couple of weeks of the season, so don't be a Scrooge and complain about the order.
Humbug.
Your crappy team season will be over soon. We'll know exactly where they'll be picking in the 2021 NFL draft. At the end of the first round, I post a shot of a second round version of this mock draft so that teams without a first round pick don't feel neglected, because nobody should be alone on Christmas. The goal in this mock draft is 2,000 likes. I know that's a lot. Please help support this channel by assisting in that goal. And let's let YouTube's algorithm know that this mock draft is merry AF. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, please make sure you subscribe to the channel because we get busy for draft season around here. All right, let's unpack this thing with the Jaguars now in the number 1 spot. It's happening, Jaguars fans. If there's any of you still out there, you can now come out of hiding. The Jaguars are now set up to be the best team to start a Madden 22 franchise with. They've got so much cap space and so many freaking draft picks to surround the best quarterback prospect in a decade. The real life counterpart to this franchise might finally escape mediocrity with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. This is a generational talent, and the Jets royally screwed up by letting him slip through their fingers like this. But for Trevor Lawrence, this might actually be a very good thing for him. The Jaguars already have a ton of offensive weapons in place, and the offensive line is in a much better shape than the Jets. Plus, that sunshine hairstyle seems like a perfect fit for the Florida team that has a pool already in their stadium. At number 2, we've got the Jets, and like I said, they may have traded one win for a decade of wins. This train wreck of a franchise can't get anything right. Adam Gase can't even follow through on his tanking requirements.
I'm a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Although I do have a sneaking suspicion that the Patriots were going to essentially forfeit their meaningless Week 17 game against the Jets anyways, and this was going to be an inevitable outcome. Now they legitimately have to question whether or not they want to move on from Sam Darnold. This was an easy answer for Trevor Lawrence, but it's not quite as definitive for Justin Fields. I think the Fields is awesome, but he's not quite the polished product that is Trevor Lawrence. I'm sticking with Justin Fields for now because it feels like Darnold already has a foot out the door, but if I were the Jets, I'd highly consider taking Penei Sewell here, the offensive tackle from Oregon, give Darnold a pair of studs at offensive tackle, or at least I'd convince the Bengals that that was the plan, force them to do the old swap move the 49ers did to the Bears once upon a time, collect a few more picks, and then still get Justin Fields. At number 3, we've got the Bengals. The bad news is that the lack of offensive line protection cost Joe Burrow the second half of his rookie season. The good news is that it could lead to the Bengals falling into position to get the best offensive lineman in the draft, even after all that excitement with the shakeup at the top. And Penei Sewell is not just the best offensive lineman, but a player that is being touted as the best non-quarterback in this draft class. You plug him in at left tackle, slide Jonah Williams over to left guard where he might be better suited to play anyways, and now you've at least got Burrow's blind side figured out. Or even better yet, cut your losses with Bobby Hart and then just shift Jonah Williams over to right tackle. At number 4, the Carolina Panthers are on the clock, and they are a hot spot for BYU quarterback Zach Wilson. But I think that Teddy Bridgewater's been looking pretty good, and with the Panthers' needs along the offensive line, I struggle to buy Matt Rule wanting to draft a quarterback without long-term stability at the left tackle position. However, with no more offensive tackles worthy of a top 10 pick, and even though they went all in on the defense in the previous draft, the linebacker position is still one part of this unit that needs an upgrade, and Micah Parsons is one of my bang-on-the-table guys for in the top 10. It won't surprise me if he falls out of the top 10, but he's going to be a steal if he does. The Panthers defense still hasn't recovered from the abrupt retirement from Luke Kuechly. Now this move will give them a new centerpiece to pair with future star Jeremy Chin, and the future of this unit looks really good. Now this is unrelated, but I thought that it was cool. Matt Rule recruited edge rusher Quincy Roche to Temple, and there was speculation that Roche would transfer to Baylor before Rule was hired by the Panthers. After that, Quincy Roche committed to Miami, but it would be pretty cool to see Matt Rule take him at some point in this draft if he was available for him. At number 5, we've got the Atlanta Falcons, and they are at a crossroads right now. They could load up for a quick turnaround to make another run, or they could grab a quarterback of the future. I'm a fan of keeping the gang together to try and redeem themselves from that infamous 28-3 loss, but the further away we get from that game, the fewer faces remain from one of the better teams in NFL history that didn't win the Super Bowl. However, Arthur Blank could be ready for a fresh start, meaning Matt Ryan and Julio Jones could be on the move. With Zach Wilson and Trey Lance available here at number 5, the choice will probably be influenced by their decision with Matt Ryan. I don't think that they can take the cap hit from trading Matt Ryan just yet, so let's go with Trey Lance, who would benefit more from sitting behind Matt Ryan for a year. But if the Falcons don't go quarterback, Gregory Rousseau has to be the pick for them. At number 6, we've got the Dallas Cowboys, and I wasn't on board with the idea of passing over Micah Parsons in my midseason mock draft, but Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith have shown signs that the 2018 or 2019 version of themselves is still in there somewhere. So maybe with a full offseason trying to learn their defensive scheme, they'll be able to rebound, but the defense still needs to be addressed. Patrick Surtain II is the only cornerback in this class worthy of a top 10 pick, and he would rejoin the Cowboys' second round pick Trayvon Diggs, who looked like a legit number 1 corner before breaking his foot. Reuniting the Alabama cornerbacks would give the Cowboys a duo that could stack up against anyone. This pick here, this just makes too much sense with Micah Parsons off the board. Let me take a minute to thank the sponsor of this mock draft, Manscaped.com. Guys, you probably treated all your loved ones this holiday season, but don't forget to treat yourself this year. Let's start with a little self-care. After all, we've all been locked up for far too long, and there's now a light at the end of the tunnel. Manscaped once again hooked me up with a bunch of tools from their all-in-one performance package kit, and you guys know I'm a real fan of this stuff. I was really excited to try their new Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology, which reduces nicks and cuts. For those of you that weren't around here last year, Manscaped's also created a ball deodorant called Crop Preserver, and this one is a game changer. But since last year, they've also added the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. My nose hair grows like a caveman, and I definitely needed this. But these guys are literally doing it all now and didn't fall short of thinking of your toes and nails. They've got the Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit. All of this stuff is top quality, and for a limited time, you'll get all of this plus 2 free gifts: the Shed travel bag and the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer briefs. Manscaped is now more than a ball trimming company. Go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off and free international shipping, plus those 2 free gifts when you use promo code NFLRT at manscaped.com. Your balls and your body will thank you. Thanks again, Manscaped, for coming through on the sponsorship. Let's get back to the mock draft. At number 7, we got the Detroit Lions. I gave the Lions Zach Wilson in my previous mock draft, so if you're interested in seeing how that scenario played out, or you want to hear my breakdown of that pick, you should definitely go check out that midseason mock draft I posted. But until we have more clarity, I don't like to go all in on a scenario that requires a heavy dose of speculation. Since that mock draft, though, the Lions have fired their head coach and GM, making it even more difficult to project the direction this team may be headed philosophy-wise. Part of the reason Matt Patricia was fired was due to the fact that he didn't fix the defense. If the Lions stick with the 4-3 moving forward, let's get them a dynamic pass rusher with a little more get up and go than Trey Flowers. There's still potential for the Aquara brothers to grow into greater roles, but Gregory Rousseau is a special player. He's the type that can elevate everyone around him with how disruptive he is, and he's the type of player that would define the tenure of a new GM based on his success. At number 8, we got the 49ers, and apparently there's no way that Zach Wilson makes it past the 49ers. At least that's what 49ers fans said in the mock draft last time in the comments, so here we are. This is me not putting up much of a fight against that idea. No secret that I'm not a fan of Jimmy G, and I really haven't been for a long time. His Super Bowl performance just reinforced my feelings, because you really don't need to do much in this offense to be a successful quarterback, but you do need to have that killer instinct to win games in crunch time if you're going to win a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't have that. I still think that the 49ers are the ideal spot for Matt Ryan to land if he was to switch teams, but we'll see if the 49ers are willing to jump in with a rookie quarterback. At number 9, we've got the Dolphins. This Dolphins pick came from the Texans in their trade for Laramie Tunsil, and even though it's not as high of a pick as it once looked like it could be, the Dolphins are still going to be able to secure the best wide receiver in the draft class. LSU's wide receiver Jamar Chase would have probably been gone already if he was eligible for the 2020 NFL draft, but after a year off from football and the value that so many teams got at wide receiver in the draft last year, those factors may push him down the draft board a little bit, and who knows, maybe Tua goes to bat for his boy Devontae Smith, elevating him higher on the Dolphins draft board than Jamar Chase. As of right now, though, I think Chase is a safe option as the top wide receiver in this draft class. At number 10, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Carson Wentz wants out of Philadelphia if he's set to remain as the most expensive backup quarterback in the league. What a big baby. You know, maybe you don't play like a backup quarterback if you don't want to be one. I'm not so sure how this is going to play out because it's going to be pretty tough for the Eagles to move Wentz's contract. My initial thought was that you make him suck it up, come back next year, compete for the starting job going into the season, a competition that he inevitably loses. But if you look around the league at how many teams have had to start multiple quarterbacks at some point already this season, it's looking like you should probably hold on to him because he's worth more to you as a backup right now than he would be as dead money against the salary cap. We'll see how that plays out. It's been kind of an ongoing joke around here that the Eagles have neglected their way to having one of the worst linebacking cores in the league. Eagles fans always remind me how the Eagles don't value the position enough. Well, this linebacker this time is almost like having another safety on the field. I'm talking about Notre Dame's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's undersized, he excels in coverage, so he doesn't fit the mold of that old-fashioned linebacker prototype. At number 11, the Chargers are on the clock, and they're one of the tougher places to project so far ahead right now. We don't know if they're going to be keeping their coaching staff, which could lead to possible scheme changes offensively, defensively, you know how it goes. Assuming they don't make sweeping changes to the defensive scheme, I think that the offensive line and the pass rush will be the glaring needs here, at least as they stand right now in December. Virginia Tech's left tackle Christian Darrisaw is an ascending player with the size and athleticism of a classic NFL left tackle. This feels a little early for him, but the left tackles always get pushed up the draft board due to positional value. But you've got a potential great one in Justin Herbert. Don't waste his talent with a mediocre offensive line. Number 12, we've got the Giants, and they were in contention for the NFC East for about 5 minutes this season, but these New York teams are both a hot mess, and the Giants are now back picking right around the top 10 in the draft. But hey, I guess they're steadily getting better. They were picking at number 2 there for a while, and then they picked at 6. Now they're outside of the top 10, so they're on their way, except for the fact that Daniel Jones can't seem to get out of his own way, and half of the Giants fan base is already over him. But unless David Gettleman gets fired, I don't see the team moving on from Daniel Jones. I think we're one more bad season away from that being a reality. So I'm going to give them the best pass rusher available in Michigan's Kwity Paye, because the only player that they've gotten a consistent pass rush from has been Leonard Williams, who does have 8.5 sacks while playing on the franchise tag. And in this scheme, that almost doesn't make sense from his position. It's just a testament to how good Leonard Williams has been for the Giants this year. At number 13, we've got the Broncos. Remember when the Broncos had 2 of the best cornerbacks in the league? Well, one of them is actually calling games now like a boss, and the other one is playing for the rival Chargers. The Broncos tried to band-aid their cornerback position with AJ Bouye, and he ended up getting suspended 6 games for PEDs, 2 of those games that are going to carry over to the 2021 season. But the beauty of the trade for AJ Bouye is that you can literally cut him this offseason with no dead cap, and he clears up almost $12 million in cap space. As a replacement for AJ Bouye, I've got Virginia Tech's Caleb Farley, who opted out this year but likely would have been a first rounder last year. He's closer to Aqib Talib than he is Chris Harris, which I think is a better fit for Vic Fangio's defense anyways. At number 14, we've got the Vikings, and forgive me for giving the Vikings yet another first round corner in my previous mock, but this is one of the hardest picks to project in the entire draft. I honestly don't know why the Vikings are as bad or inconsistent as they are. Well, actually I do, and his name rhymes with jerk dozens. But the Vikings made their bed twice, and now they have to lie in it for probably another 2 years. I struggled to find another area of value for them here in the middle of the first round. I almost went defensive tackle, but remember that Michael Pierce opted out and will be a huge addition for this defense in 2021. With Anthony Harris on the franchise tag, Harrison Smith going into the final year of his deal and playing close to the line of scrimmage every year, I think the secondary needs more playmakers. Oregon safety Javon Holland is my favorite safety in the draft, and assuming Harris is back on a long-term deal, Holland could play all over the place in 2021 while being groomed to take over for Harrison Smith in 2022. At number 15, we've got the Patriots, and until we have more clarity on the Patriots' future at quarterback, we have to assume that they have a plan in place for life after Cam Newton. I question if Belichick wants to go through the growing pains with a rookie quarterback at this point in his career, so I think it's more likely that they try the veteran route again, in my opinion, and there's going to be plenty to choose from this offseason. So I'm keeping this pick the same as my previous mock draft, with Belichick quenching his thirst for a dynamic tight end like Kyle Pitts from Florida. This guy might not even make it to pick 15 when it's all said and done. Who knows what we're going to do for the NFL Combine this year at this point. Hopefully these guys are going to get at least some kind of pro day or workouts and stuff, because I'd love to see the numbers that Kyle Pitts can put up. At number 16, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders. In the first round, the Raiders want a player with good positional value from a top football program, and that's their type. They've made it pretty obvious. It's also pretty clear that they can't find a defensive tackle to hold down the middle of their defense. Mo Hurst is the only defensive tackle under contract beyond this season, and he needs an injury just to see the field these days. Alabama's defensive tackle Christian Barmore fits all of their requirements and is an alpha dog with bags of potential. He's only a redshirt sophomore, but he's built like a small mountain. He's also skilled enough to play any position along the defensive interior. At number 17, we've got the Chicago Bears, and I had them going wide receiver in the last mock, and while I still think that's going to be high on the needs for them once Allen Robinson signs with the Packers, they need to reinforce the offensive line before they even worry about dropping a quarterback back to pass, whomever's poor soul that ends up being. Alex Leatherwood from Alabama is one of my favorite offensive linemen in this class due to the swing flex that I think he'll offer. He could play any position along the offensive line, but he also comes into the league with one of the best football names, and Chicago seems like the perfect home for a guy named Leatherwood. At number 18, we've got the Miami Dolphins back on the clock, and this defense is going to be what sets them apart from the rest of the league. But they can't get complacent and stop adding pieces. Jamar Chase was a luxury pick for your franchise quarterback. Now you need a chess piece for the D. Joseph Asai from Texas is a twitchy, versatile edge rusher with the ability to play in space. He'd be the Kyle Van Noy of the future for the scheme. At number 19, we've got the Washington football team, and they have their head coach of the future. He's got a vicious defense to lean on. A lot of people are going to be screaming for a quarterback here, but I've heard that Ron Rivera wants a veteran. Whoever that ends up being, he's going to need more than just a Terry McLaurin to throw to, and we know that the Redskins love to draft their Alabama players, and Devontae Smith has been an absolute stud now that he doesn't have to share the limelight with Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs. At number 20, we have got the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm afraid that Chandler Jones' best days are behind him. He'll be back with the Cardinals next year, but you have to be prepared for the fact that he might not be the double-digit sack guy anymore. Hassan Reddick is technically your double-digit sack guy now, but 5 of his 10 sacks came against a hamstrung Daniel Jones. Reddick is probably going to be lured away for a lot of money in free agency. RIP to the GM that does that, and the Cardinals honestly should just take their compensatory pick, thank him for his services, and move on because they don't need to overpay for a fluky contract year breakout. Georgia edge rusher Azeez Ojulari is a solid scheme fit for the Cardinals and could be highly coveted from other odd front defenses. He's smaller than a Chandler Jones, but he's bigger than Hassan Reddick and honestly comparable athletically. At 21, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Chris Godwin is a free agent this year, and I don't think the Bucs are going to be able to keep him. Antonio Brown might be the more likely wide receiver to come back because the market for him has been pretty well non-existent, and this is all assuming that Tom Brady comes back for another run at this thing. This offense is missing a speed dynamic that the Bucs could address with one of the fastest players in college football, Rondale Moore. Oh, damn, not again. Picture is Jalen Waddle though, right? Well, let me explain. My last mock had a lot of pictures not lining up with the player that I was talking about, and there are 2 reasons why this was happening. One of them is that I edit on Final Cut Pro on a Mac, and I would recommend that program to anyone that's interested in editing videos, but it also seems to be kind of glitchy on my videos and will revert back to an old version of the file that I'm using sometimes. I think that it's because my videos are kind of intense on my Mac's RAM. It'll freeze up on some of the more elaborate animations, and I have to close the program down, open it back up, and it's pretty tedious. Sometimes I'll be able to catch things that have reverted back, sometimes I don't. I should still go through afterwards to make sure that everything is accurate, so I apologize for that, but in my defense, these mock drafts take a ton of time, and I'm usually sleep deprived and on the verge of passing out from exhaustion by the time I'm done. I mean, it is right now 3 a.m. on Monday morning, the 21st. Once I'm done recording these voiceovers, I'll probably go sleep for a couple hours, wake up, thankful that my wife is on Christmas break so that she can watch our kids, and then I can go back to the basement and continue editing this video. So yeah, this one was done on purpose. I mentioned that I don't see Jalen Waddle going before Devontae Smith in my previous mock because we barely had a chance to see Waddle as a true wide receiver. I would in fact take Purdue's wide receiver Rondale Moore over Waddle because I believe he's more of a complete wide receiver and an ideal fit with Tom Brady with his run after catch ability. But Jalen Waddle's got a big fan base that seems to be trolling mock drafts, so this is an opportunity to get those that just skim through the video looking at the pictures. But yeah, let's get back to business. At number 22, we've got the Indianapolis Colts. The first question I need answered here is, what are the Colts going to do about their quarterback situation? Philip Rivers bounced back from a terrible start in 2020, and I honestly wouldn't be opposed to the Colts bringing him back for one more year at a much cheaper rate so the Colts can continue to develop Jacob Eason, who they spent a 4th rounder on last year. We didn't get a preseason, so we don't really know what they've got in Jacob Eason, but I'm not trying to spend a late first on a Kyle Trask or a Mac Jones when I've got other options. Jacoby Brissett's contract also expires. I wouldn't be surprised if he was seeking another opportunity to start. Maybe the Washington team would be an option for a guy like him. So no, this is not the place to pick a quarterback. The Colts also though have a decision to make regarding Justin Houston's expiring contract, but his career expiration date is in sight. So even if you brought him back on a short team-friendly deal, you got to get some guys for the future. So let's pair up Ben Banogu with Penn State edge rusher Jason Owa. This would give the Colts a pair of bookends with athleticism comparable to the Dwight Freeney-Robert Mathis duo. At number 23, we've got the Baltimore Ravens, and the retirement of Marshall Yanda has made a huge difference in the Ravens' offensive line this year, even before the Ronnie Stanley injury. Ohio State's guard Wyatt Davis is a hoss that could help them get back to the road grading of defenses with their running game. Plays right guard for the Buckeyes, but honestly would be an upgrade from either of the Ravens' current starting guards. At number 24, we've got the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns secondary's got a lot of moving parts going into 2021, with Denzel Ward really the only consistent part of the equation. With 2 first-round talents from LSU being added next year, regardless of the expiring contracts, their secondary could either be the biggest hole in the team or one of the deepest parts on the team. So we'll see how they handle all those free agents. That makes me want to shift my draft focus towards the front 7. I don't know if I've ever mocked a guy from this school in the first round, but this dude, Zaven Collins, is definitely going in the first. He is the rare kind of guy that is just as likely to make the game-sealing sack as he is to end the game with a pick 6. I have no idea what position he ends up playing at the NFL level, but that's why I think the Browns are a pretty good perfect fit for him. Their defensive coordinator Joe Woods has a background in a 4-3 and a 3-4, and he could deploy Collins all over the place. Collins is listed at 6'4", 260, was a high school valedictorian, so you know he's got head on his shoulders, and he is a former gymnast. This dude is a freak of nature. At number 25, we've got the Tennessee Titans. So Jadeveon Clowney will walk in free agency, right? That's pretty easy to answer. And then the Titans are right back where they started with their lack of pass rush. There's a few options I could see here, but it all depends on what the Titans are actually looking for, if they even know. Their free agency additions last year, Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney, are completely different types of players. One relies on speed, the other with power. I think getting a Harold Landry clone would be the most effective addition to make their 3-4 defense versatile and unpredictable. Former Temple edge Quincy Roche transferred to Miami for a chance to play with Gregory Rousseau, who opted out, and Roche ended up with a career low in sacks this year. However, he still possesses the athletic ability to cover and rush the passer, so if you paired him with Landry, opposing offenses wouldn't know which one of these edge rushers may be dropping into coverage or coming after the passer, but they got to get this pass rush fixed. At number 26, we've got the New York Jets back on the clock, and this is the pick from the Jamal Adams trade. Now, they may have missed out on getting the quarterback from Clemson, but they can't just take Justin Fields from one of the deepest college rosters surrounded by talent. I think they can just drop him onto one of the weakest NFL rosters. He needs to be surrounded by playmakers, so let's get petty and take the running back from Clemson instead. I had this as the Jets' second first rounder in the last mock draft, and it's because the Jets' offense is just in such a desperate need of speed. Travis Etienne is a special home run hitter at the running back position with burner speed and would be a great help for Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, whoever you got playing quarterback. At number 27, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, and as terrible as the circumstances are for Bud Dupree, his injury actually makes it more likely that the Steelers are able to retain him at a much more affordable rate. It sucks, but that's just the structure that the NFL has set up and the players agreed to it, so it is what it is. But this defensive rebuild has gone on for far too long to ignore the pass rush, so if Bud Dupree is not retained, edge rush becomes a glaring need for the Steelers. And then, not to mention, Big Ben probably hangs them up this offseason, so for you guys that are fans of quarterbacks with relatively low ceilings, this is around the area where I would take Mac Jones or Kyle Trask. However, the next Steelers quarterback is going to need to feel like they can hold on to the ball for longer than a 3-step drop. So let's build an offensive line first. Texas left tackle Samuel Cosme could go higher than this, but he's a damn near clone of a young Alejandro Villanueva, got it this time, who also is on an expiring contract. If both veterans that I've mentioned are brought back, I still think the tackle is a need for the Steelers, and Cosme could play right tackle, but there's not a lot of long-term pieces along this offensive line, and I think it's got to be addressed. At 28, we got the Green Bay Packers, and everybody wants the Packers to draft a wide receiver, but after passing on one in that class that we just had, makes you think they're going to get one now. I think that they want to set things up for Jordan Love down the road, and an elite offensive line is the best thing that you can do for a young quarterback. Rashawn Slater plays tackle for Northwestern, but his build looks like he could slide inside if necessary, and depending on what they do with Corey Linsley, Packers could be looking for a little bit of a shakeup along the interior of their offensive line. At number 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars are back on the clock. This pick is from the Rams trade for Jalen Ramsey. And I mentioned that the Jaguars offensive line is better than the Jets, but you're still going to need to revamp things a little bit before you can feel comfortable putting a rookie quarterback behind it. The center and the right tackle are the only positions with some stability moving forward. Right guard Andrew Norwell is getting paid a lot of money and could free up $12 million in cap space if the Jaguars wanted to get younger there, especially after he spent the second half of the season on IR with a forearm injury. Left tackle Cam Robinson has been up and down in his career, but I think that they can bring him back for a reasonable deal, and Lord knows the Jaguars certainly have the cap space to do so. So I'm giving them Trey Smith from Tennessee because he is a physical presence that can allow them to continue to build a run-first offense while easing Trevor Lawrence in. At number 30, we've got the Buffalo Bills. This one isn't too creative or crazy, but the Bills' only obvious weakness is in the defensive backfield. Tre'Davious White is a top 2 or 3 player at the cornerback position, so the guy opposite of him is always going to get challenged by opposing offenses. Shaun Wade was voted as the Big Ten defensive back of the year, but I think even he would be willing to admit that his 2020 performance wasn't as good as his 2019 edition, where he was playing with Jeff Okudah in 2019 and responded well, so I think he would be prepared to play opposite of an elite cornerback like Tre'Davious White. At 31, we've got the New Orleans Saints, and they are one of the deepest rosters in the NFL, making it even more difficult to find a hole to address. Quarterback's an obvious one, with Brees likely headed for retirement after the season, especially after the beating that he took, but I find it hard to believe that they don't have a situation that Sean Payton feels more comfortable with when they've got Jameis Winston in-house, Taysom Hill scheduled to make $16 million next year. I highly doubt we make it to the draft without one, if not both of those guys on the Saints roster. Linebacker had been a popular position for the Saints, but their trade for Quan Alexander was a shrewd one that really upgrades the athleticism position. When I tell you that I tried to avoid making this pick again, I promise I did, but drafting the son of Saints legend Joe Horn makes too much sense. JC Horn was a breakout player this year for the Gamecocks, and this random group of veterans that they have playing alongside Marshawn Lattimore just aren't getting the job done. At 32, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. In my last mock, I had the Chiefs going Rashad Bateman from Minnesota because they're going to need someone to replace Sammy Watkins while maintaining their wide receiver core as a dominant and elite one. I could have done that again, but I want to keep things fresh without making poor picks. So how about solidifying the interior of the offensive line with Oklahoma's Creed Humphrey? Austin Reiter, their starting center right now, is scheduled to be a free agent. He got his starting job because the Chiefs didn't want to pay his predecessor, so they could draft a center who would give Mahomes a guy that they could rely on snapping the ball for the next 5+ years. Humphrey is a lefty though, so I'm not sure if that pushes him down draft boards because it'll make things backwards for the cornerback. If we have any offensive line experts out there, let me know in the comments. Here is the second round of my mock draft. I'm not going to break every single one of these picks down because I'm exhausted, but like I said, I wanted to keep everybody involved. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. That's the mock. I appreciate you guys watching this so much, especially if you stayed all the way to the end like this. Also, thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, interacting with this video in some way. Any or all of those things will help in growing this channel, and I hope everybody has a great holiday season here. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. Good luck to your team if you're lucky enough to be in the playoffs. Let's hope for a smooth, COVID-free playoff season, and I will see you all in the next video.